again. Welcome to her Untold Stories. I am so excited for today's edition. If you're new here, let me know where you're tuning in from, where you're watching from. And if you're an OG since the first episode, let me know in the chat as well. Put a fire emoji in the chat. I'm gonna let Instagram let you guys know that we are live. Happy Wednesday. How's your Wednesday going so far? I hope you guys are okay. How has it been? We have an amazing guest today. Like we do here every Wednesday, we sit here and we hear amazing, inspirational stories from women who are making an impact in your own world, and they are changing lives. They are going through life. Life is lifing and changing situations. But in the middle of that, they still are able to push through barriers of limitations, self doubt, building confidence in knowing that their voice is authentic. And the reason why we are here doing this series is so that you don't have to feel alone. You are not alone in whatever situation, whatever change situation you are going through as a woman, whether it be career change, health change, fitness change, business change, whatever it is. The reason why we are sat here today is to hold us accountable, is to hold support and hold hands together to say, you are strong, you can do it. If you hear another story of a woman who has never shared her story, or who her story hasn't been as visible as you may think, and for you to hear that and think, I relate to that, I can connect to that. That's why I'm sat here, and that's why the amazing guests that we have every Wednesday come in and share their stories in the hope that it would inspire one woman out there to continue to show up, to continue to find peace in their own voice, to know their calling, to build their confidence, and more so to know that their journey is unique to them. Your journey is unique to you, and you're in a safe space with a whole community of women who are going through life but are not letting the situation define them. So today we have an amazing guest, and I hope that you stick around to the end. Let's glean, let's learn, and let's hear this amazing inspirational story. So I know that our guest is already here. So without further ado, let us get into today. Hi. Hopefully Instagram is not going to let us down. I have accepted Nadia. Yay!
Hi.
We made it. I was like, oh my God, don't embarrass me here, Instagram. How are
I'm doing
you?
great. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm blessed. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you spending your afternoon with me, with the with the IG folks. I know that we're all busy, and it's a sacrifice for you to be here to have conversations around transition, and have a conversation to encourage some other women who. Can you hear me?
You,
Oh yes, we're back.
you okay? I'm back. I can hear you now.
Okay, so thank you for hanging out with us. Let's get into it. So tell us. We always start by tell us about you, because we don't know anything. Like, just enlighten us. Tell us about you and your
Well,
story.
Ella, first I have to say thank you for this amazing space that you're creating. I was listening to your intro and just really like it's heartwarming that we have this space so that we know that we're not alone. So thank you for allowing me to tell my story, first off. To those who don't know me, I am Nadia. I am a project manager. And I've been doing this work, I like to say, since I got here. I'm one of nine. I'm the oldest of nine children. And so it's really in my blood. I really have administration in my blood. We lived in the same house with the same two parents. And so learning how to operate with many different personalities, with different schedules, and just all of the things that go into a household, I was able to learn and see up front. And that really poured into my passions and what I like to do and how I like to help. And so I really enjoy, one, helping people take what's in their mind, that idea. I like to help them take it from idea all the way through execution until they get to success, because sometimes we get super overwhelmed with our own thoughts. We get super overwhelmed with like what's going on in our mind, and we need somebody to help us make it make sense. And so that's where I come into play. And I got the tools, like I said, the tools that I needed to do that within my household. And not only do I work with women, entrepreneurs, creatives, business owners, small business owners, I help them not only to work in their business and get their ideas to success, but to recognize that yes, you're a CEO, yes, you're a mom, yes, you're a wife, a daughter, all of the things with all the stuff, but first you're a woman. And if you don't pour into yourself first, how are you going to pour into anybody else?
Amazing. Fact, truth, and it's such I think it's like it's a common, almost like it's obvious, but a lot of us don't actually live in that grace of knowing that we gotta look after you first. You've got to pour into you first to be okay. I always say that if you are serving from an empty saucepan, then who are you serving? You're really not serving anyone. If everyone is at the top of the list and you're at the bottom, then you're not effective even in your service to everyone on your list. So why do it the hard way? But nature and nurture as women allow us to do it the other way, even without realizing that, hey, I'm someone too. I need to pour into me to be able to be available. So speaking about that, tell us about your journey from what you were doing into really starting your own business and just knowing that, hey, I've got this to pour out into so many other amazing women, and I'm going to do that through what I know that is my strength.
So I started off in corporate America. I was working in corporate America from the age of 14 all the way through about 23-ish. And so I started off as an ice cream scooper, but I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. But from the standpoint of learning how is business, how do we operate in business? So I always say I started off as an ice cream scooper and quickly transitioned to the manager at the early age of 15. I was managing a Cold Stone here in the United States. At the age of 15, learning the ins and out of training and how to operate. And so as I journeyed through high school, I had the little jobs here and there. I don't know if she's still there.
I'm
Okay,
here.
perfect. Whether it was like an official position or not, I was always doing some form of training. And so my last corporate job, I was working in the finance industry, and I did have the official role as trainer. And while I was doing that, I was also doing a side hustle. I was working in corporate America, but I was also doing my own thing on the side, working with influencers and creatives and helping them to keep their schedules managed, to keep their social media up to date, and really being a space where they can vent and get things out of their head so that it makes sense. And it started pulling on me. My corporate job wanted so many hours, but then so did my clients. They're like, hey, we need you to travel. And it wasn't really working with my schedule. And I got to a place where I could have stayed in corporate America. I was doing something that I like to do. It was not technically really hard. I was really in my zone of kind of excellence there. But I felt like I came to a place where it was just either we do it now and we go 100% into entrepreneurship, or we're going to be here for 30 years. And I actually lost everything to a house fire, random house fire. Like literally my apartment building got struck by lightning. Like when I say random, I mean it was thunderstorming and lightning hit. And that was really just a space where I had to take a step back and look and say, am I cool with where I am? And I was, but I knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be for the rest of my life. And so one day I walked into the office and I said, hey, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. And they like kicked and screamed, I don't want you to go. How can we get you to stay? But I had made up in my mind that I wanted to journey 100% and bet on myself. I wanted to do what I love doing, and that's helping women to take their ideas and get all the way through execution to success. And so I put in my 2 weeks and I've been rocking ever since. And that was in, believe it or not, 2020. I quit my job at the end of 2020. And so 2021 was my first full year of full-time entrepreneurship. So I've been in it for we're about 18 months in or so. It's been a journey for sure. I took the first year of full-time entrepreneurship to work as a personal assistant. That's kind of how I transitioned. I transitioned out of corporate America into the assisting role, or the support role is what I like to call it, because it's what I was already doing. I was supporting creatives and influencers in their projects. And so I kind of stood there just to get my feet wet. I worked with 5 amazing entrepreneurs all over the United States, all doing something different: sales, operations, social media, and then some personal assistant here where I am locally. And so at the end of 2021, I looked up and I said, you know, that was great training for me. That was great for me to get my feet wet, to understand how this role operates and works. And so at the beginning of 2022, I've transitioned from personal assistant to project manager, which they do quite a bit of the same thing, but I'm able to do strategy, more coaching through the project management format than the personal assisting. And then it allows me to open up my business and eventually do the personal assistant agency. So I'll have assistants working underneath me, but I had to take that year to really understand that role, so that I could transition well when I have those working underneath me.
Oh my God, your story is so amazing. Like, I'm like literally counting, like that was
Yeah.
transition 1, and then that was transition 2, and then that was like the reason why we say that preparation, yeah, you always have to prepare. I think a lot of times when we are betting on ourselves, we think, oh my God, you're just supposed to dive in and be everything. So I like the process that you gave yourself and pacing yourself through each transition. Like, I want to go on my own. I know how to do it, but I'm still going to serve first. I'm going to serve in the place that I want to eventually serve. And today, it's funny because today I talked about, in my Number Wednesday live, I talked about how to thrive as a small business owner is building value in advance. So what you were doing in your process of doing the personal assistant to all of this, you were giving value, but you're doing it in advance of, hey, I want to own this agencies where I'm going to have train people to do exactly the same thing. Because what is success if you can't, leave breadcrumbs for other people to do it, even when you are not available? So that is such an amazing story, and I want to bottleneck on the buttress on the fact that you said, in order for you to move from here today to there, is bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time we always forget to bet on ourselves. That the moment that you give yourself grace and permission, then you're really like saying to yourself, I'm gonna do this no matter no matter what journey it is, no matter the process. So how do you really sum up the courage and build the confidence to bet on yourself when you're in that process of
I
change?
think the number one thing that I've learned over the last 18 months is that um, I have to look at my journey. I have to look at success from a progress standpoint over a perfection standpoint. And so I'm a recovering perfectionist, is what I like to tell everybody. I being a perfectionist is somebody who really just wants to make sure all things are right in line before you move to the next thing. And sometimes that triggers you to have unrealistic expectations, a fear of failure. It triggers you into these negative spaces and cycles of self-doubt. And so when I made the adjustment to go from perfection to progress, I began to celebrate like small wins. And so when I step back and I look at my process, I look at what's happening, I stop and I say, okay, I might not have made it to this major goal that I'm trying to get to, but what steps have I taken to get there? And then I celebrate those wins. And so I think that that's really how I was able to bet on myself, is I took a step back and I was like, well, ma'am, you've actually been doing this for 7 years. You've been doing it on top of working full time. You've been doing it on top of living a well-balanced life. Let's take another step. It might not be perfect, but if we take the next step, this will be the next step into the journey of success. So really just transitioning my perspective from perfection, everything has to be in line perfectly before I move on to the next, and really looking at progress. What can I do next to get me to the bigger goal, and how can I celebrate that win once I get it? That really helped me to bet on myself. It really helped me to say, betting on myself doesn't mean that I need to make 6 figures in the first day or the first week. Betting on myself means that I put my 2 weeks notice in. That's a win for me, because now I'm motivating myself to say, hey, you can actually do this. I'm reminding myself that I value the value that's on the inside of me. And so I think that's really the biggest takeaway for me, is changing and shifting from a mindset of perfection to progress.
I think it's very important that you talked about mindset, because mind and set is exactly where you set your mind to, because your mind is like a machine. It's where you set it to that it operates from. So if you set it to the place of, I can't do this now, I need to keep going and going and going, or I'm too afraid of who is on the other side, or the field is too big, you've literally set your mind for so many limitations that you are going to stay in that place that your mind is set, and all of a sudden all you're going to see is all the limitations that would make you not move that little point movement. So it's so important that you talk about mindset. What are the 3 things that you can, that someone can do, someone who is thinking about, just moving from, maybe it's their corporate job, maybe it's just an idea that sat in their head, and moving to that place of on really uncertainty, where you don't know how your idea is going to be perceived. You've got it. What are the 3 things that you can do to activate that mindset, to keep you in the place of almost like stability for yourself, so that as you navigate the change, you're still like present in your mind, say that I'm not shifted from here, the process might shift, but I need to create that mindset. What 3 things can a woman do to help her navigate?
That's a really good question. I think number one, I would say, and this is what I even tell my clients, write it down. Like when it's all in your brain and it's all in your mind and it's just up there and it's jumbled, you have ideas on top of ideas, to really sit down and have a moment of just, I call them brain dumps. Literally just write everything down that's coming to your mind in a 10-15 minute. It doesn't have to be long. A 10-15 minute, it's quiet, you're secluded, you're in your own space. Anything that's coming to your mind, write it down on a piece of paper. Once you get it out of your head, then you can start to really build on top of it. So I would say that that's number one, is to do a brain dump. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about even sometimes completing the sentence. You really just, as thoughts are coming to your mind, just get them out of your head. And I would physically write with pen and paper. There's something for me that as I'm putting pen to paper, things just begin to make more sense for me. It's like, I don't know, therapeutic almost. And so I would say that's number one. Start with a brain dump, and then you can go back and organize those thoughts. Really go back and say, okay, this doesn't make sense, but it sparks something. Even if it's something that's wild, out of the ordinary, doesn't necessarily make sense to you, write it down, because when you go back and you look at it, it might spark something else. You have to have that starting point. And so I say that's number one, write it all down, organize it, and then begin to just kind of flesh that out. The second thing that I would do is to reflect. And not just reflect on whatever that goal is, but really take a minute and look over the last 30 days of your life. What's been good? What's been bad? What's caused you to be indifferent? Where do you want to see levels of change? Where do you want to see levels of growth? Where are you doing good? That sets you up to be able to say, okay, this is where I am. You are honest with where you are, and then you know how you where you are from that honest place. There's nothing wrong with where you are today, because that's where you are. So it's no point in getting beating yourself up about it. Take an honest look at where you are through reflection, and that's going to help you to figure out what that next step is. We get so lost in our brain sometimes because we're not honest with ourselves with where we are, because we feel some type of way about it. But if we are honest and we give that grace to really sit in that reflection, your next step is going to be very immediately you're going to see it. It's going to just be blaring of what your next step should be. So I would say that's number 2. Number 1 is to really just have a brain dump, get it all out. Number 2 is to reflect. And number 3 is to rest. I tell everybody, if you don't, this is what I'll say. Rest is a valuable investment in your mental and your emotional and your physical well-being. Whenever you pour into your rest, whenever you invest in yourself, you're going to get a good return. But if your mind is tired, if your body is tired, if your emotions are all out of whack, those first 2 steps are not going to make any sense, because you're going to be operating from this place of lack, or like you were saying, this place of emptiness. So resting and reframing what rest looks like. And that might take some time, but rest is actually an investment in you. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of resources. Yes, you do have things that are going on, but rest should be at the top of that priority list, because when you're rested, things begin to make a lot more sense. So I would say that those are the 3 for me.
Oh my God, that is so amazing. You've opened a little kind of worms there. And I always say this to my client as well. There's nothing that is priceless and has more robust value than actually writing things down. You never organize in your head, because like you said, 1,000,001 things in the head. Because when you put things to pen and paper, like you said, 3 things happen. You throw some things away, you expand on them, and some of them just you spark new ideas. So if you don't write it down, you're never going to experience those 3 things: expansion, creation, and bin it. And there's nothing wrong with binning something if it's in your head and you write it down and you go and look at it and it's like not good. You bin it, and that's okay too. And I think sometimes we're afraid to write things down because we're afraid of getting things in our head. It's almost like because it's out of your head, like you're afraid to implement it. But that's the opposite. The more it's out of your head, you now committed to do it, because now you've written it down. Like I literally have so many journals for business, personal, because I like writing things down. Because the more I write things down, even in my personal life, if I wasn't happy with someone, or if I wasn't happy with something, if I wanted to talk to God, I write it down. And once I write it down, I feel like I've let it go. I've gotten the peace, and I'm like, thank you for staying in my head. Now you can rest over here in the book. And and then you talk about reflection, and I think that is especially for really ambitious people who set goals. I think we're always afraid to reflect, because in reflecting, you're going to see where things went wrong, and you're going to see where, well, I kind of overwhelmed myself there, and then the rest comes. I need to rest. I'm talking to myself as well, because I had to learn to prioritize rest. My husband is always saying to me, you got to rest.
Yeah.
Like, you can't burn yourself down. You're useless to anyone if you are not resting. And I literally had to take that seriously. That rest is an investment to me, like I said, because I'm useless to anyone else. Even as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as whoever you are to people, if you don't have rest, if you're grumpy, if you're burnt out, then you're no good to anyone.
Absolutely.
Beside you. Your confidence goes like that, because your brain is not even computing like, okay, I need to take this step, I need to take that step, So that brings us to the place of how do you overcome the obstacle? Whether it's the obstacle of your mind, whether it's the obstacle of not having clarity, whether it's the obstacle of confidence as you navigate change. It doesn't matter what the change is. A lot of times one of the things that change does to us is it gives us different emotions. We're excited that we want something, want to do this, or we want to move. And then the days draw closer and you start having regressions like, sure, do I really want to do this? And then comes fear because now you are like, you've taken the step.
Yeah.
So how do you go from what are the three obstacles and how do you overcome this obstacle?
I think one of the main things that I do, listen, whenever you talk to me, you're going to hear something about God. That's just the way that it goes. And so I always pray. Like, I have to pray and find peace. Once I have peace on it, I'm settled. Like, and I might have those moments of just like you're saying, that fear, that unshakiness, but I always revert back to, we prayed about this and we found peace. I have peace on it. And so there's really nothing that can come against my peace because me and God talked about it. We're good. We got peace. So that's always number one for me, because at the end of the day, if he said it was good and we all right, and I'm checking in regularly, like, prayer is just a simple conversation with God. I'm checking in regularly and I'm telling him what's going on and I'm listening to what he's asking me to do. I'm set. I'm good. But then the natural part comes in and you do have that fear. You do have those moments where things are not going the way that you want them to go. I always have accountability. If I don't have accountability, it's a secret. So I can say I'm going to do it. And then sometimes as humans, like, we make promises to ourselves that we don't keep. And so if I don't have accountability, then I could fall into that space where it's like, okay, I'll just do it later. I don't have to do it. If I have something big going on, I like to say this: marriage is the best accountability that you can have as long as you're open with your partner. Me and my husband, I tell him everything. And I'll tell him, hey, I need you to keep me accountable here because my emotions are getting a little bit all over the place. Things are really not working out the way that I want them to work. So I need you to keep me accountable. And his next question to me is, how? What does accountability look like for you in this area? Because and so I have to be honest and say, every day, I need you to just ask me a question. Or if you're thinking about it, say this word, and that'll make sure that I'm staying on it. Or ask me, did I get it done? So I would say praying, accountability, those really are the two things. And grace for myself. Like we were saying, it's progress over perfection. Things are going to happen, and I'm a planner. I like to have a plan written out. I like to go by the plan because I know that it's going to work because I've taken the time to plan it out. Sometimes things just don't go according to plan. So to give myself grace and recognize that, yes, you should have a plan, but there has to be a space for life to happen, ideas to continue to grow, progress to be made, and then you can make minor adjustments along the way. So I would say that those are the three ways that I get over those obstacles: praying and finding my peace, finding accountability, because if I don't have accountability, then I can really just let it go by the wayside, and then giving myself and the plan grace.
Oh my God, that's so important. Like accountability. I like how you say that your husband is your first like accountability. Well, when you're like accountable to yourself, but then you also need someone to hold you accountable. But I think sometimes when we're going through change, we feel like we're alone. So we're almost like wanting to isolate ourselves and say, well, she doesn't understand. But if you find a place where that is safe for you to say, hey, I'm going through this and I want to do this and this is my end goal. Would you please hold me accountable for each step? And accountability could just be, how are you today? How are you holding up? Did you get that done? And being able to be clear about how you want to be held accountable is another thing that we have to learn, especially in the season of change in your life. Sometimes it can get a little bit much and life be life in, and you just like, how do I get from you're not really expressive on how you can really be held accountable. So finding that support system allows you to be vulnerable sometimes, even though you're being held accountable, to say, hey, it didn't work today, I'm gonna try tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important.
And that is the place yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
on.
I think it's important, like,
No, go
find
ahead.
that safe space so that you do feel comfortable to say, hey, listen, it didn't happen for me today, or I'm feeling this way and I really don't want to do what I said I want to do. It's important that it is that safe space. And I think as women, as people in business, entrepreneurs, we have to recognize that everybody is not a safe space. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they're not a safe space for you. And so recognizing that sometimes that means family and friends. I have best friends and family members that I just know on this particular place of accountability, I can't go to them in that. That does not change our relationship, but I have to recognize who needs to go where. And sometimes that looks like a coach, and that means that you got to make an investment. Sometimes that looks like a community.
Mm-hmm.
It looks different in accountability. And I had that issue as when I was first starting out as an entrepreneur. I wanted to call my best friend about everything. Hey, this, I'm mad about whatever the case might be. And she was just like, well, we mad.
Get it.
Not, holding me accountable to, okay, get your emotions in check and still follow through with what you said that you were going to do. Or what do you need to adjust or change? We weren't having those conversations. And that's what accountability looks like.
Oh my God, that is so amazing. And I think if you're out there and you are like we're talking about going through this change, because it happened to me as well, because I transitioned from corporate as well to in 2020 when I was like, I'm gonna dive into this. I'm leaving my corporate because I don't want my young daughter to be in nursery like my boy. But then a lot of times when I was talking to people that in any normal day life, they're like, they give me advice, we chat, but I had to understand the place of silence and departmentally putting people in their department for that season of my life. My bestie that we could have a chat, have a girl powwow with, she doesn't understand anything about business. So every time I went to her and I was like, I felt like she wasn't fulfilling her role as this close person. But then I gave her a role that she didn't ask for. She didn't need to be in that role. And I think a lot of times we need to understand the times and seasons of this accountability, because that can really push your confidence down. And it's not because you don't have the skill, it's not because your vision is whack, it's because you're in the wrong spot. You're in the wrong support. And like you say, they're not bad people. They're just not the ideal person or people for that space, to hold that space for you. So it's important that we realize and give people their roles. Like your bestie, where you have the gout chat and have a little gossip.
Yeah.
And that person to talk about your business and your vision with, because she don't understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
She might want to talk about your man, but she don't understand your business.
Exactly.
And you have to be okay with that.
I agree. And that's
So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's, yeah, go on.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that this is so good, because I feel like a lot of women need to hear it. A lot of people are feeling less confident because they're talking to their girlfriends who have no business in their dreams and vision. Find a coach. Find someone who is 5 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
Your girl pal, if she ain't done no business, she has no business being in your business.
That's it.
I love it. That brings me to the next question: with how do you separate? How do you get people into this container of change? Because a lot of times when we're going through change, like we've talked about, not everybody is supposed to know about the vision. Sometimes you have to be quiet. So in that process, where do you draw the line for you to be accountable, b know when to hire a coach, C, know when to be like, I gotta give myself grace in this race. That, I'm not everything, so I need to. So, how do you draw the line? Where do you draw that line in terms of relationship, in terms of communications, in terms of like everything, just for you to be able to like go through whatever change in career, change into a mompreneur or whatever.
I think the one thing for me is I have to be honest with when I have an idea and might just be me. Sometimes I have a half an idea. It's like, this sounds, but I haven't really sat with it yet. I can't verbalize it. It doesn't make. Now, I'm also a process by talking. I process what's happening in my head by talking. So life got a whole lot easier for me when my husband got it, because he knows how to help me to process. So my husband, he's really kind of the one who gets it all for me. But I had to realize that I can't process talking to everyone. So I stopped. I was like you said, that bestie. When I was, it just had to be me for a second. I out for myself. Once I kind of the gist of what I was looking at, I do have people who are mentors. My mentors are the people that I do first, and really help me to flesh that idea out. And they help you to kind of move along and track and mentor, coach, however. Um, to be honest, I just stopped talking about my business to a mentor or coach or someone in business. We're a part of the Amplified community. I'm comfortable. That's a safe place to say, hey, I have a question. And then that. If it's not a mentor, a coach, or somebody in a business, I'm just really not talking to about it. And again, it's not that I don't want you to know, is that right? It's not in a stage or a place that I'm ready for other people to be able to put in their thoughts, their ideas. Let me figure it out first. I'm the visionary, the simple. I'm the one who, this is my baby. And just like when you have a natural child, you by yourself and it's just you and your child bond with that's really, I think, the way that I look. Let me figure out what this baby is. Birth out and let me get it out into the world. If you're not my business community, I'm really not having with you, not of you or because I don't want you to know. It's space for me to be open to hear anyone else's thoughts or opinions on it. I hope that answered the question.
No, I think it's spot on. Protect your space, protect your vision. God gave it to you. He didn't give it to your bestie. He didn't give it to some people are not supposed to see it, know it until it comes out and it's in the right place for them to receive it. Because at that point, and I think that's so important that we learn to nurture the gift, all the thing that we are about to do, so that we hold space for ourselves, and in turn give yourself grace and not to put too much pressure on yourself by prematurely announcing it. And now you're like, I have to do it. I have to, like, too much pressure on yourself. There's no more grace, no more reflection, no more planning, because now you're like out to please
Yes.
rather than staying in the stage and going through each stage one by one. So my next question is, what have you learned, and what can you say to that person who is, let's say, like you and me, who's in corporate and has this big idea, has this big passion, but is just afraid to take the leap? What would you say to her?
I would say you can, like, the fear means false evidence appearing real. That's what it means. That's what it is. It's so anytime you feel afraid, write down the fear and break down how that fear actually falls. Um, the one thing that I will say is get you a coach. Get someone who is already doing what you're doing or want to do. It might not be the idea business who is as successful, and just question, ask and ask and ask and ask and ask, and just see if you are able to get into their space, like it turns. Like, that's for me what I did. I got up underneath somebody that I was like, they're doing similar things I want to, and it worked for free. I was like, hey, you need, I'll come and I'll help you do these things, because one, that put me in the room to really recognize and understand what was going on, built up the confidence. Like, oh, well, yeah, I can do that. Oh, well, these are the conversations that I'm having. That seems like something that I do. So really get into it if you can, in whatever that looks like. Or um, getting on a coaching call and having to pick a brain or coach. I would really say find someone that you want to be successful in, and learn as much as you can. Don't let that hold you back from betting, like we talked about earlier.
That's amazing. Find someone who, um, 2 steps. I always say to my clients, even if they're a 0.5 step ahead of you, follow them. Success always leaves clues. There is no one that is successful that doesn't leave breadcrumbs of the things that they've done to be successful. So that is also part of investing in yourself, because sometimes you don't have to take the longer route. You can make it shorter by just looking at the breadcrumbs of somebody else and learning through that mistake. So that is absolutely right. Thank you so much, like, for sharing your journey, for giving us a lot of tips. Like, I've written so many things down, because I'm just like, this is amazing. And just before we wrap this up, tell that woman who, one word that she can go along with as she navigates transition, change, navigating entrepreneurship. What is that one word that you would say, sis, hold on to this? Change is coming, success is coming.
Yeah. I think I would say peace. Follow your peace. Your peace is going to get to the success every single time.
Hold on to your peace. And I think there's just, it's phenomenal, because your peace, it translates to everything that we've talked about. Hold space for yourself, get accountable, get it down, because when you get it down, it's not longer muffled in your head. Then the peace comes, like, okay, I've got it down, I can expand, I can, like, there's so many other things that you can do once you hold space for your peace, and knowing that it's your unique journey, that nobody else is going to do it. It's your journey. Literally, you are the one navigating the ship. You don't have to tell everybody. You have to select who you're talking to. Get you a coach. Get confident in knowing who you are, and knowing, giving yourself grace to know that this journey is just a journey, and that there are bumps and hoops and everything along the way. Which brings me to my final question. How do you navigate from having the idea in your head to it actually, like, going live to if you can tell that woman who has it in her head and it's been there, and like, I don't know how to transform this into a tangible thing, service, whatever it is. How does it get from my head to being a lovely service to the world?
So that's a very loaded question. And I give you like really short. One, we talked about it. Write it down. You have to know what is the goal, what is the impact, and what is your definition of success. Not what does success mean in the dictionary. What is your definition of success for this particular goal or project that you have? Once you have those things, then you write down. I like to start at the end. What the definition of success? That's when we go to that. What is it? Work yourself backwards and write you a plan. And a plan is, you have this action, sub actions on how you're going to do it. You have action and sub actions on how you're going to do it. Write yourself a plan. Your plan also includes a timeline. So include your timeline there. You'll hear me say hire help. Does not always mean put money towards it, although sometimes that is what that means. Find yourself some help where you can delegate some tasks off of your plate so that you do the things that only you can do, and find accountability.
That's Like the pre, it's that's so powerful. Write it down, plan, get your timeline, work backwards, and delegate. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need help here, so that you can keep, nourishing that gift, the strategic part of it, so that the gift can come to life properly. You don't need to be boring yourself with so many admin things when you can do the strategic things to make this gift come to life. Don't be afraid of help. Thank you so much for sharing the nuggets, the tips. Like, this was so insightful. Tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on all social media platforms at Company, EIA and AND Company. Mostly I'm on Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn at Nadia Streeter, and you can just follow me from there.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have anything that you can offer to the people? Do you have anything on offer? What is there at Nadia Company that we can glean into? We know that you're like they're expert at getting our ideas into tangible. Like, how can we partake in this goodness?
So your journey and your project is really strategic to you. It's really unique to you. So I always say schedule a consult. You can find me at nadian.com. This schedule a consult. It's a 30-minute session where I'm listening to your ideas and I'm helping you kind of figure out what's next and how we can work together. And then I'll also a book. It's called we were talking about the perfectionism trap, and it helps you. It has a worksheet in it. It helps you to identify spaces where you can celebrate. Not always figure out what those small wins are, but those small wins will help you to be more productive. And so you can also find that at the link in my bio.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, your experience, your inspiration, everything, all the nuggets, because I know that someone out there is listening and thinking, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice because I know I can do this. If she can do it, then so can I. So, and that is why we're here, to make sure that everybody knows that every woman who is ambitious going through life to know I'm not alone. Your struggle is 1 million other women's struggle. And if we can learn to do the things that we talked about, write, plan, delegate, give yourself grace, be slow to speak, reflect, and all of those things, eventually we go from stage to stage, and knowing that that journey is unique to you. It's your journey. Find your peace in that journey. And then you will be able to, that everything else becomes history when you find that peace in your journey. Thank you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation. Come back and speak to us soon. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate spending your time to encourage, uplift other women who are navigating this journey, because it's a family, it's a safe space, and we got a whole space for each other. So thank you so much. I had such an amazing time.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me, Ella. And like I said in the beginning, this is an amazing conversation. Don't stop. These stories are great. I've been listening to the ones that we've had previously. It's amazing what you're doing, and I'm so appreciative. I wish I had it when I was starting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Oh my God. What an amazing confirmation of even my journey. Her story is so similar to mine. Guys, I am so appreciative of all the women that come in on a Wednesday to sit and chat with me. Like, I've got so much notes, and I think what I'm gonna have to do is to also put in the notes that what I learned and what I gleaned from this conversation. And today, what really stuck with me is find your peace in your journey. Get it out of your head. Make sure that you're writing. And when you do that, make sure that you're reflecting. When you're reflecting, have honest conversation with yourself. And the last but not the least, if you are feeling any discouragement because you're comparing yourself to somebody else, or maybe you prematurely told your gift to that girlfriend who is just a powwow, like you just have girl chat and talk about your man, she is not your business bestie. Don't put responsibility on people who are not equipped to hold you accountable, to hold space for you, because sometimes those are the things that discourage you and reduce your confidence from where you are going. So if you didn't hear anything today, sometimes it's okay to shush. You don't have to say everything. Your vision doesn't have to come out before it is birthed. You got to nurture it like that baby. Protect that vision. Find peace in it. Get yourself a safe space, accountability. Invest in a coach, someone who is 2%, 1%, 0.5% ahead of you. That is the most important thing that you need as you navigate your own unique journey. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Until next week, we'll be here. Another amazing story. Thank you, Nadia. I'm appreciative. Thank you to you who tune in and watch, and all the lovely DMs. I really appreciate it. This makes this vision so much more like fulfilling in my heart when I know that one person has been transformed by these stories. Until next week, I'll see you next week. Have an amazing, amazing day. Bye, guys. See you next week.